Early voting is a week away in the race for Las Vegas mayor, and we've got 5 of the frontrunners from the crowded field of 18 and 1 hour to pin them down. It's time to decide who gets your vote next on a special Sunday night edition of Face to Face.
This is a special edition of Face to Face with Jon Ralston, the Las Vegas mayoral debate.
Welcome to Face to Face. We'll bring you newsmakers and commentary you won't find anywhere else. Tonight, a 1-hour conversation with the leading candidates in the race for mayor of Las Vegas. We appreciate their participation. Let's meet them. Larry Brown is a Clark County Commissioner and former Las Vegas City Councilman. Victor Shaltiel is a businessman who has lived in Las Vegas for 11 years. He's on the board of the Hebrew Academy. Chris June Kiliani is also a Clark County Commissioner. She served in the State Assembly and as the head of the Teachers Union. Carolyn Goodman retired last year from the Meadows School, which she founded in the 80s. She's married to the current mayor of Las Vegas, Oscar Goodman. Steve Ross is a Las Vegas City Councilman. He also served as Secretary-Treasurer of the Building Trades, a post he no longer holds. Appreciate all of you coming on the program. Thank you very much. Now, people don't really realize that the mayor doesn't have that much actual power in the city charter, 1 vote. But the mayor has the biggest voice in the city. So you're talking about a lot of issues in this campaign that the mayor can't do a lot about. Or can he or she? We're going to find out. Let's talk about education. Mr. Ross, you put out a startling press release the other day. And here was the headline on that news release. Goodman to Goodman, your education system sucks. Wow. And here's what you said about Carolyn Goodman's interest in education. 99% of Las Vegas families can't afford $15,000 a year to send their kids to a fancy private school. If she was interested in a dialogue and not politics, Carolyn would have started talking 12 years ago when her husband was first elected mayor. Did you have too much coffee that day, sir?
No, I stand by my words, John, and this is important to understand. I have a great deal of respect for her and certainly for her husband and the things she's accomplished. But let's be real. You said it opening of the show. You know, the mayor only can do certain things. The mayor has nothing to do with setting the policy or the agenda for the Clark County School District. The focus of this campaign needs to be job creation. If people aren't working, forget about sending their kids to any schools. And to take it out of context, it's not being in reality. Most people cannot afford to send their children to a school that's $15,000 a year, and you know what the school district budgets.
But you just said that the mayor has nothing to do with the Clark County School District, and you're saying that Oscar Goodman somehow has something to do with the school system that Carolyn Goodman is criticizing. I don't get it. That's a disconnect,
that
sir.
Has not been the agenda of Oscar Goodman or the current city council.
You're saying it should have been?
If Carolyn wants to be the mayor or wants anything to do with education, she should run for the school board.
Well, I don't think she's going to run for the school board, but let's take a look at what Mr. Ross was getting at about you and your husband, Mrs. Goodman. Let's take a look at the Meadows school tuition, because that's what he was talking about, versus school district funding. Meadows charges between $16,400 and $22,000, depending on the grade level. Clark County public schools are funded $5,035 from the state for a total of $7,842, and that's all courses. All right, so that's how much you have talked about both in your ads and during debates about opening a dialogue. So how can somebody who has headed a school for the very few open a dialogue with people that you say have contributed to the absolute worst school system? How do you do that as mayor?
Well, let me tell you something right up front. My husband better watch out. I'm falling in love with you right here and now because you have just created the venue, which is what I'm trying to do, is open a dialogue about the awful state of education here, which is affecting everything, bringing in new business, and the fact that we now have a dialogue open on education, that's exactly what the mayor can do.
But what some people would say is, you're not the right person to do that. You're out of touch. You're saying it's an absolute worst. Sure, if we could get $22,000 per pupil in the Clark County School District, I bet we'd have the best school system in the country.
Well, if you had the facts correct, which you don't, that's not the cost.
We got that from the Meadows website, I believe.
Well, that's the cost for full pay. We have many students, approximately a fifth of them, that are low income. Most of our families, bless them, are working 2 jobs to be there. But that's not the purpose of all of this. It was to be the mayor is the voice and face of Las Vegas. We will never open up new businesses here and create jobs if we don't improve the quality of education. And that has to be pounded and pounded, much like Oscar talking about cutting off a thumb about graffiti. It's bringing attention to the matter so that somebody, some group will do something about it.
Why is it so bad? Why is it the absolute worst?
When we came here in '64, we researched it before we moved here. The Clark County School District is #2 in the nation.
Why is it so bad now, though?
It has just grown. We're too top-heavy in administration. There are so many areas. We took a nonprofit model, and it's a model that could be used for children with special needs. It could be used for anything. But I think, in favor of the dialogue here that's going on, the cost of educating a child, 80 cents of every dollar that comes into that school's in with the teacher, in salary, benefits, and in supplies. Everything else has been donated. The entire 40-acre campus is built out, fully built out, and is debt-free.
Let me move on to Ms. Giuliani here. Commissioner Giuliani, I know you have a husband, too. You're not going to tell me you're in love with me now, are you? Okay. Because that would be a little bit too much for me. But let me ask you a serious question here. You've been involved in education for a long time. You've been a special ed teacher. You've been involved in the teachers union. And one thing you pride yourself on, in fact, you put a mail piece out that you're a budget hawk. You put out this mail piece that says Jon Ralston is a budget hawk. Yet throughout your career, really your solution to the education problems is to raise taxes. You voted for billions of dollars in taxes as a legislator. Reconcile that.
I don't have to reconcile that. I think what we've been discussing here is money does make a difference as far as making sure that you have a well-qualified educational system. And I stand by that because it's an investment. And if you invest in your businesses, you invest in your schools, then they can hire the young people that you want to have be there. But most importantly, if the school district, who's actually at $4,800 and some odd dollars right now in their funding, if they had 4 times as much that money, just give us half, and we could produce. The district has problems. It has challenges, but it also has opportunities. And I don't think you run away from an opportunity. You spend the time and work on the 114 schools.
What some people would say,
needed.
maybe even Carolyn Goodman would say this, is it's not just about the money. It's the policies inside the schools. That if you keep putting the same amount of money in, no matter if it's not a good program, you're still going to get garbage,
Absolutely.
right?
And I'm one of the ones who actually put in performance pay for teachers and myself in the legislature. I'm the one who put in class size reduction along with Matt Callister and worked on that legislation. And that's the #1 reason a private school and a parochial school parent sends their kids, because I spent the time to call each of the private schools and parochial schools about 20 years ago to ask them what they chose to do. That takes money, that takes time. But most importantly, you need parental involvement, you need new programming, you need teacher training, and then you need accountability. And that means if you need to fire somebody, then do so. But document it and then get them out of there if they're not performing. That's always been my challenge. My call for that has always been my working conditions as a teacher, as a special education teacher, are the same working conditions as the students. You have to focus on making sure you've got the supplies, the textbooks, and that does take money.
You think it's an unfair perception of the organization you used to work for, the teachers union, that's the biggest impediment to improving education because you block bad teachers being hired, that all you care about, being fired, and that all you care about is putting more money in?
Absolutely not. I don't agree with that. I counseled personally more teachers out of the classroom than the school district ever bothered to try to fire. And I have always called and said, if you are not performing, you deal with that business, and they should not be in there for against the kids and not doing their job.